हाय, इट्स 3:31 AM, चाय गरम है, लैंप ऑन है और आखिरी पेज अभी भी गायब है। वेलकम बैक टू द काउंटडाउन। मैं हूँ अमृता और यह है चैप्टर 1, द लेजर ऑन द थर्ड शेल्फ। ओके, सो लेट्स स्टार्ट। Every popular essay on productivity tells you the exact same lie. They tell you that if you just discipline yourself enough to wake up at an ungodly hour, color code your notebooks, and build a flawless master plan, the universe will magically yield to your ambitions. They turn isolation into a beautiful, aesthetic luxury band. But nobody documents the quiet madness of the messy middle. Nobody presses record when it's freezing outside, the tea has developed a cold foam over it, and you are starting at a single page of text for the 28th time, wondering if your absolute best is going to end up being a massive failure. Waking up at 3:30 a.m. for a monumental goal isn't a beautiful cinematic montage. The first few days feel like a violent punishment if you are inflicting on yourself while the rest of the city is fall asleep. Because I crave absolute precision, I don't even set my alarms for a clean number. My phone goes off exactly at 3:30 a.m. 3:31 am, sorry. Clean numbers feel safe and balanced. Prime number feels entirely isolated, which is exactly how the air test in the dark room before dawn. But this morning, the sterile routine of my desk completely shattered. Okay, so the the first sub part of chapter 1 is the unregistered echo. I was reaching into the shadows of the top shelf of my bookcase, hunting for an old reference guide, when my knuckles brushed against a rough, steep spine hidden behind a heavy volumes. It was smaller ledger bound in a coarse, brittle blue canvas. It didn't belong to me. When I opened it, there was no name on the inner cover, no author, no notes, no ownership mark, nothing. There was only a single unsettling line stamped across the first page in a tight mechanical cursive that looked like it belonged to an old administrative office. The horizon does not exist to mark the end of the earth. It exists to keep the architecture from collapsing. I repeat, the horizon does not exist to mark the end of earth. It exists to keep the architecture from collapsing. Directly beneath that sentence was a handwritten date, May 26th, 1926. OMG, May 26, 1926, exactly 100 years ago today. So the second subpart is the severed bind. My chest tightened as I flipped through it. I expected a historical diary or a forgotten century old study log. Instead, my next 99 pages were starkly, completely blank, except for the very end. As my fingers traveled down to the edge of a heavy cotton paper, my heart did a sudden violent flip. The final page. The page explicitly meant for day 100 had been deliberately and cleanly sliced out of the binding with a razor blade. When you spend your life starting at an overwhelming mountain of a syllabus, trying to force a massive future into a narrow timeline, you realize the hardest part isn't the intellectual weight. It's the emotional tax of the monotony. It's the terrifying realization that you are burning your youth away for a chance at a different life. Looking at the severed binding, a cold sweat broke out of my neck. I wasn't the first person to sit at this exact wooden desk. under the harsh lamp, trying to optimize my life to beat an impossible clock. Someone else had stood on this identical track a century ago, running the exact same race. And whatever answer they found by the time they reached the 100th day, someone else had gone to great lengths to make sure it was erased. I set my pen down against my blank sheet of day one. The countdown hadn't just begun, it had been waiting for me for 100 years. चलो कल मिलते हैं तब तक डोंट चेक द लास्ट पेज बाय बाय